when a string of mutilated corpses begins surfacing along the mist-choked bayous of Sainte-Marguerite, Louisiana, each bearing a ragged Glasgow smile, and eyelids stitched wide in eternal terror, the locals whisper one name: Facelift. I never imagined a smell could talk, but the sour-sweet stench that drifted off the Bayou Sainte-Marguerite morgue spoke clearer than any witness I'd ever interviewed. "This is what a Glasgow smile smells like," it whispered as I pushed through the warped green doors. 5 sheets lay in a row, their outlines too slight to hide what was underneath. The cotton had already soaked through in jagged crescents where cheek met ear. I'd been with the Bureau 12 years, long enough to know that by the 5th body in a series, the investigation stops being a hunt and turns into a reckoning. That's why they flew me down from Quantico after the discovery of the 5th victim behind the St. Jude Parish Rectory. My badge said Special Agent Henry Voss, but lately it felt like a paper mask covering a hollow skull. A year ago, I'd tasted the muzzle of my own service pistol, toyed with the idea of giving myself the kind of exit wound coroners call a film canister. I didn't pull the trigger, no noble reason, only that the safety was sticky and I was too tired to click it off. Now this swamp-hemmed town had given me something heavier than a Beretta to hold on to: the desperate hope of finding the next victim alive. Her name was Alice Renaud, 22, last seen closing the White Egret Cafe on Sunday night. Sheriff Boone, a red-faced man who kept an oversized rosary looped through his duty belt, briefed me while we stood over the 5th body. "Facelift-like symmetry," he muttered, pointing to the crescent carved into the dead girl's cheeks. "Slit from the corners of the mouth clean to the ears, eyelids snipped, then sewn back open with fishing line, so the poor soul has to watch herself bleed out. Doc says he even shells their teeth with a file, makes the smile wider." I nodded, but my gaze kept snagging on the victim's eyes, pupil rims still glossy, as if begging the fluorescent lights for a reprieve they'd never get. 5 eyeless stares bore into me that night, and every night after. They chased me through motel corridors, curled up in my styrofoam coffee, shimmered behind the bug-stained mirror above the sink. "Help us," they mouthed. "Bring her home." Day 1, Tuesday. The missing persons canvas began at dawn. Alice's bedroom was neat, except for an overturned jewelry box. In the spilled trinkets, I found a crudely folded paper crane splattered with what looked like candle wax. Tiny needle holes dotted the wings. Boone said it was new. Her mother swore Alice hated origami. I bagged it and moved on. Locals who'd never trusted feds opened up once I lingered at the White Egret's counter long enough to empty 3 mugs of chicory coffee. Stories poured in. Faceless footsteps rustling cane leaves at midnight. Guttural humming floating over the cypress. No prints, no fibres, no useful camera feeds. Just rumour thick as marsh mud. The only hard clue came from a trawler captain who'd spotted a lantern in an abandoned trapping shack 2 miles into the bayou the night Alice vanished. I marked the coordinates and told Boone to prep an airboat for first light. That evening, alone in the motel, I reread Alice's case file until the type blurred. 3rd-year nursing student, volunteer EMT, took care of her diabetic mom, paid her own tuition. A life threaded with promise, now dangling in a butcher's workshop. My hand drifted to the old burnished pistol on the nightstand, and for the first time in months, I felt no pull toward the trigger. I tasted iron resolve instead. Day 2, Wednesday. The bayou looked peaceful in the sunrise, Spanish moss glowing like old lace. Don't be fooled. The water hides sawgrass blades sharp enough to slice denim and gaiters longer than pickup beds. Boone steered while I scanned the tree line. 90 minutes in, we spotted a sliver of tin roof poking above cattails. The shack tilted sideways on pylons, boards covered in sigils made of rust and rot. "Smell that?" Boone gagged. Formaldehyde, bleach, and something sweeter. It clawed down my throat like hot wire. We made entry, guns up. Inside, a metal dentist's chair welded to the floor, leather cuffs dark with dried blood, and photographs pinned in a perfect circle around a cracked mirror. 5 photographs, 5 mouths carved open. Number 6 sat in the very center, Alice, gagged but breathing, the flash reflecting off her terrified eyes. We searched room by room. No Alice, no killer. Only a hatch in the floor leading to a sub-cellar cut into peat. A single bulb flickered overhead. The walls were lined with mason jars, each holding strips of cured human skin floating in clear gel. Names scrawled across the lids. Emma, Simone, Tasha, Lillian, Charlotte. Next to them, an empty jar labeled Alice. Boone's radio crackled. The deputy back on shore found 3 sets of tire tracks leading away from the shack toward Arsenault logging road. Fresh. Our killer had been here maybe hours earlier, maybe minutes. Rage surged through me like turpentine on a flame. "He's prepping her somewhere else," I said. "Someplace closer to deeper water." Sheriff Boone eyed me. "Why water?" "Because Facelift wants an audience," I answered, glancing at the jars. "He preserves trophies but dumps bodies where the swamp will swallow them. It's how he thinks he'll never be caught. Smart, methodical. He'll finish with Alice tonight. I didn't have proof. I had intuition. The kind you can only sharpen on suicide's whetstone." Boone argued for backup and a warrant. I argued for speed. While he wrangled jurisdictional paperwork, I borrowed an unmarked SUV and headed down the logging road alone. Night 2, Wednesday. The road dissolved into ruts flanked by black mirror pools. Wind hissed through reeds like whispered threats. Every mile deeper, my headlights startled bullfrogs that leapt into the dark with wet slaps. Then, at 21:07, beam white glinted against corrugated tin, half buried under vines. A second shack, bigger, tucked between live oaks. I killed the engine, drew my pistol, and slipped through knee-deep water to the porch. Inside I heard humming, low, off-key, lilting. Children's lullaby, no, older. Sur le pont d'Avignon, a Cajun waltz about dancers twirling under lantern light. The melody scraped every nerve raw. The lock surrendered to a silent Halligan pry. I stepped into a room lit only by fireflies trapped in mason jars. Their green pulses darted over butcher's tools, hung in symmetrical rows. In the center, on a plank floor matted with sawdust, knelt Alice. Chains cinched her wrists to an iron ring. Her eyes shot wide at the sight of me, thank God still intact. A single red line crossed her cheek, shallow. He'd started but not finished. "I'm Henry," I whispered, picking the lock on her cuffs with trembling hands. "FBI, stay quiet." She nodded, tears streaking mud down her face. The humming stopped. "She don't dance no waltz with you, Fed." He emerged from a doorway wrapped in a waxed canvas apron slick with something brown. His mask was fresh skin stitched into a permanent grin, the edges puckered, teeth of another's jaw wired atop his own. Swamp water dripped from his boots. In his right hand gleamed a hawkbill blade, curved and hungry. "Put it down," I said, my service pistol leveled at his sternum. My voice barely obeyed my lungs. He laughed, an airy bubbling sound. "You know why I sew their lids open? So they can see the world end the way it began. Gasping, screaming, smiling like a newborn devil." I angled my body, shielding Alice. "Back away, hands where I can." He lunged, time shredded. His blade nicked my left forearm. My shot grazed his shoulder. He barreled into me, and we crashed through the rear wall, splintering boards, tumbling onto a sagging dock behind the shack. Bayou water slapped beneath us, black as crude oil. He swung again. I ducked, drove my elbow into his ribs. Something cracked. He shrieked, slashing wild arcs. The dock groaned, half-rotted pylons snapping under our weight. He tackled me. My pistol skidded into the murk. We rolled, punching, clawing. He tried for my eyes. I headbutted, felt cartilage crunch. Blood spurted onto my lips, coppery, slick. He shoved 2 fingers into the Glasgow scars lining his own mask and ripped it free, revealing a lean, gaunt face tattooed with sewing needle dots. A grin still stretched ear to ear, self-inflicted. "You'll look good smiling," he hissed, raising the hawkbill. A deep splash cut him off. Ripples fanned under the dock. A gator's ridged back surfaced, eyes glowing like mercury orbs. Facelift froze. So did I. The predator surged between us, jaws yawned wide. In a blur it clamped onto the killer's leg, twisting. Facelift howled, high, ragged, then was hauled off the dock with a thunderous splash. Water frothed scarlet. His screams dwindled to gurgles, then nothing but the lazy churn of a satisfied reptile. I staggered up, dizzy. Alice called my name from the doorway, still shackled but free of the room's horrors. I secured a loose board as a splint for her ankle, then picked her shackles clean. We limped toward the SUV while sirens wailed far behind. Boone's cavalry, late but welcome. My vision clouded, warmth spilled down my forearm where the hawkbill had kissed deeper than I'd felt. I kept Alice talking to stay conscious. What music she liked, Zydeco, her cat's name, Miel, her dream of finishing nursing school. When the paramedics took her pulse on the causeway, I finally let go and fainted. Day 5. Saturday. They said I lost 2 pints and a chunk of muscle. They said infection was a risk. They said Boone found the shack packed with trophy jars and ID cards, evidence enough to close the facelift case forever. Even without a body, the gators had already parceled out to the bayou. I didn't care. All I wanted was proof of life. Alice provided it herself. She slipped into my hospital room with a bouquet of wild irises and a timid smile that bloomed into something fierce when she saw me awake. Her cheek bore a pale pink slash, nothing more. "You saved me," she said, voice trembling. "Can't imagine the nightmares you carry, but you gave me the chance to have mine fade someday." I tried to answer, but my throat clenched. She squeezed my unbandaged hand and left the flowers by the window. Sunlight caught the petals, turned them to stained glass. As the door shut, 5 figures glimmered at the foot of my bed. Emma, Simone, Tasha, Lillian, Charlotte. Faces I'd memorized in morgue chill, now shining warm and unscarred. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Thin smiles, the real kind, formed as they nodded in unison. A soft white glow gathered behind them, and one by one they stepped into it, fading like fog under sunrise. When the last light winked out, the room felt wider, lungs felt fuller. Life, impossibly, had space again. I settled back against the pillows, eyelids heavy but unsewn. The beeping of the heart monitor synced with the distant croak of a bullfrog outside, a rhythm steady as hope. For the first time in years, I let my gaze soften, and I rested, content to leave the muzzle of my pistol cold and untouched, dreaming of irises blooming where nightmares once grew.